Hi FS100 class. Here is a brief summary video about decision making from Chapter 3. Remember, we already saw some of the slides in this slideshow when we talked about motivation last week. Today we're going to talk about decision making. So I'm going to skip down to the slide with our decision making model. Okay, here is the decision making model in our book. This model is an 8-step model. You can see the steps listed in order on the left, and then you can see the picture of the model on the right. Even though the steps are listed in order, in a list from 1 to 8, the picture shows how this process actually is a circle and continues around the circle. So the first step is to identify the decision to be made, to actually sit down and write down the decision you need to make. This model is used for larger life decisions, not small things like what to have for dinner tonight, but large life decisions related to your career, your academics, your relationships, and other large personal issues. The decisions could be positive or negative. You could have a negative situation you need to make a decision about, or you could have a positive opportunity that comes your way and you need to make decisions. So that's step 1, to actually write down the decision you need to make. Step 2 is to know yourself with your strengths and areas to improve. You need to know, related to this decision, what you are good at, what skills you have, but you also need to know, related to this decision, what you might struggle with. In step 3, you identify your options. The key in step 3 is to be creative and brainstorm. Often we can think of 1 or 2 options right away, but don't stop there. Give yourself some time and brainstorm and think of as many options as possible. Even if some of the options sound silly or don't make sense, that's okay. They are options. My example was a student who wanted to bring more income into his house. Apart from normal options like getting a different job or another job, he listed win the lottery. That's an option. Okay, be creative. Identify as many options as possible. In step 4, you gather information about each option. Basically, you research each option. You should have as many steps in step 4 as you do in step 3, because you're gathering information about each option you listed in step 3. In step 5, you evaluate each option. This is the step that allows you to think, well, that's silly, I'm not going to do that one. Or, this one could work. You evaluate each one. Step 6, you select the best option that works for you at that time. It doesn't mean your other options are bad. You are just selecting the best one that seems to fit best at that point in your life. Step 7, you develop and implement an action plan just like you did with goal setting. So you haven't moved forward yet in step 7. You need to write down your steps that you're going to take, your action plan. Then after you write down those steps, that's when you actually move forward with your decision. Finally, step 8, you evaluate the outcomes of your decision. You actually go back and look and say, was that the right decision? did it work out the way I hoped? And if not, this is where the circle on the right of the screen comes in, because if your decision didn't work out the way you expected, you have not failed. And you just keep going around the circle, probably back to step 3, because you already did the work of identifying options. You don't need to start over. You already did a lot of work in step 3. And now, depending on the time that has passed, you might even be able to add additional options in step 3. That's why this process is actually a circle, because you need to evaluate what happened, and if you can improve on that decision, you keep going around the circle. And that is a summary of our 8-step decision-making process from Chapter 3.